My name is Adam Riedel. I'm 23 years old, and today I'm going to be telling you my journey of building $1 million business in 2 years. So to really start this story, we kind of have to go all the way back to the beginning. It was 2020. I was a junior in college at the University of Dayton, and I was actually on an internship with this company that made medical supplies. I was living in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, working my internship as an electrical engineer. I ended up catching COVID-19. I was living in company housing at the time with some coworkers, and they wanted me to go home and live with my parents for 2 weeks in quarantine so that I didn't get anyone else at the company sick. Long story short, I end up going home. I live with my parents for 2 weeks. At the time, I was really into sports cards, trading sports cards, buying and selling on eBay, that whole world. It was blowing up at the time, and I was totally obsessed with it. I was buying NBA cards, NFL cards, just paying a lot of attention to that world. So during my time in quarantine at home, I was watching a ton of videos about sports cards and specifically about grading sports cards. So if you don't know what that means, when you open a pack of cards and you get a really rare one, for example, LeBron James, what you can do is you can send it to this company and they'll grade it on a scale of 1 to 10 based on a couple different criteria, and they'll put it in a little case for you, and ultimately, depending on the grade, it can increase the value of the card by 10x. So I was learning all about this, and the one thing to note about getting your cards graded professionally is it's not cheap. It can be up to $35 or $40 per card, which is a lot of money, especially if you get the card back and it's not the grade you were expecting. You can end up losing money in the long run. So when I was in quarantine, I came up with this idea for a tool that would help you grade your card before you send it off to the grading company and help you determine the grade so that if it wasn't what you were expecting, you didn't send it in and waste money on getting it graded. So I came up with this idea and I instantly got to work. I had nothing better to do. I was locked inside my bedroom. The tool basically was a transparent piece of paper with a grid printed on it, and then it was laminated, and you would place it over the card and you could see how well the card was cut by the manufacturer. I called it the center tool. I started designing the files in Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and trying to figure out a way to manufacture this thing. I didn't know anything about sourcing at the time. I didn't know anything about overseas manufacturing. So I figured I had to figure out a way to do this myself. I didn't have a ton of money at the time. I needed to figure out a way to do this pretty cheap by myself and without any huge upfront cost. I ended up getting out of quarantine, heading back to my internship. For the next couple weeks, every day after work, I was working on this product. Ultimately, I developed a way to manufacture it at home that included buying a printer, a laminating machine, and a bunch of materials. All in all, I was in it for like $300 or $400. So I made my first 200 units. I made an eBay listing because eBay was huge for sports cards at the time. And sure enough, the thing started selling pretty instantly. It didn't take long for people to notice it and want it and start buying it. And so it was selling, and every day after work, I would package them up in envelopes. I would hand address the person it was going to, put stamps on it, and within a few weeks I was dropping off hundreds of letters a week at the post office. I remember I would go into the local post office and buy 500 stamps at a time, and the people would be like, what do you, like, they would look at me like I was crazy. They're like, what do you need all these stamps for? I want to take it even bigger, and I want to bring the product to Amazon, which was a whole different beast at the time. It was very intimidating, and it seemed very hard. I did my research, I did my diligence, and I figured out how to start an Amazon seller account, and I calculated the fees associated with it, figured out how to ship product to Amazon's fulfillment centers. Long story short, I ended up getting my product on Amazon, getting it to fulfillment centers, and now it's available on Amazon with Prime shipping. And I remember how excited I was at work when I refreshed my Amazon app and I saw my first sale show up. I was like, this is insane. And then shortly thereafter, again, it started to blow up. Zero ad spend. It was just organically selling. I specifically remember one day sitting at work. I pull out my Amazon app, I refresh it, and I had sold like $100 worth of product. Call it $30 to $50 in profit. And I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, if I could make a couple $100 extra per month off this, that would be insane. I would just I would be ecstatic. Little did I know what this would all turn into, but I really remember thinking like this would just be a great side income. My internship ended, I moved back to college in Dayton, Ohio, into my college house with all my friends, and I needed somewhere to be able to continue to make these tools. So I ended up renting an office at this really nice shopping center in Dayton, Ohio. It was a small one-room office, but it was very cool to have my own office and have a door that said Adam Riedel LLC on it with my phone number. It was just insane. And I remember every Saturday morning, me and my good friend Pete, we would wake up early after going out Friday night, whatever we did Friday night, we would wake up early, head to the office, grab a coffee, a bagel, and sit there and work for 4, 5, 6 hours sometime. It wasn't always fun, but there was a lot of times where it was just great to sit there, listen to music, listen to a podcast, talk about the night before, and just work and make some money in the morning. So those are some really good times, really good memories, and just a cool moment of my life and a very surreal moment. I ended up figuring out Amazon ads and started to spend some money on ads for this product, and that's when it really started to go crazy. I started to make tens of thousands of dollars a month. I didn't have to pay rent because I was in college. I literally only had to pay for my groceries. I felt on top of the world. I started to spend a little bit recklessly. My friends would always make fun of me for having Amazon packages at the door every day because I was just buying random shit. Yeah, it was a very crazy time and exciting time in my life, and to be 19 years old making that kind of money was crazy. So that continues for a few more months, and I start to see the end nearing. The sports card market started to slow down pretty heavily. I could see that the end was coming. Sales started to slow a little bit. The semester ended and I was moving back to doing an internship, so I ended up leaving my office, moved all my stuff out of there and into my internship house. During this time when I saw things start to slow down, I got even more into entrepreneurship. I was reading a ton of books about business, e-commerce, everything. And the one book I specifically have credited several times is 12 Months to a Million. That book changed my life. It's a book about identifying problems in your life, problems you have with products in your life, or things that you wish you had in your day-to-day life that just aren't available on the market. And basically taking those ideas and problems and turning them into products and learning how to scale them from 0 to $1 million. At the time, I started to get really into golf. I'd bought a used set of clubs, and I wanted a way to clean and restore my clubs. And I did some Google searches for like golf club polish, golf club cleaner, golf club cleaning kit. Nothing at all. Nothing on Amazon, nothing on Google, literally nothing available. And so I had like an aha moment. I was like, holy cow, this might be something. I let it sit for a few days in my head, but as I continued to read this book, I just couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't even pay attention to the book because I just kept thinking about the idea. Finally, I was like, okay, I just have to do this. I had no idea how to manufacture chemicals. I had no idea how to do any of that. And I didn't want to get super deep into this and it end up being a failure. So what I did was I ordered a couple hundred bottles to my house. I remember they showed up and all my roommates were like, what are these white bottles doing in our living room? I designed a label, a logo, I got some labels ordered. And I essentially had a bottle, a label, and a cap. I had no product in the bottle. And that was the hard part. So what I decided to do as just like a test run, I bought some generic metal polish off the shelf and I filled these bottles with it. I filled like 20 bottles with it, basic metal polish. It didn't work very well at all, but I wanted to see if the concept would sell. I sent these 20 bottles to Amazon, and sure enough, within a week, I think they had all sold. The reviews came in and they were terrible because it was a bad product. It wasn't meant for clubs. But I knew the idea was going to work. At that point, I went all in. I started to research manufacturers, try to figure out how to get chemicals made. I'm cold calling manufacturing companies. I'm like, hey, here's my idea. I need help with it. How do we do this? I got a bunch of no's. I got a bunch of quotes that were completely outrageous that wanted me to order $50,000 worth of product the first time. But eventually I came across a manufacturer that was down to work with me. They didn't have a crazy minimum order quantity, and they sent me some samples of some product. I tried it, I found one I liked, And I said, okay, this is good, but I want to improve it. I want to make it better. I want to make it specifically for golf clubs. And so then they did exactly that. They improved the product. We tested it, improved it some more until we finally had a product that I was happy and proud to sell. This took like 2 months. So then finally at the end of 2 months, I placed this order for this product. It gets shipped to Amazon. I think it was like 1 or 2,000 units. It was a lot of money for me at the time. It was a couple grand, but I was taking a big bet on this. And sure enough, it started to sell. The product started to move and I was really excited. It started pretty slow. It wasn't going crazy like my card grading tool, but it was selling. And I wasn't putting any ad spend behind it yet, but it was doing well. And so then I was going well. My internship that I was on ended and I go back to college, and this is when I really start working hard on it. I really started to get some traction. I started to do some social media stuff, Instagram stuff, and I ended up developing a second product, a spray to clean your clubs, which ended up doing well. And I remember a very pivotal moment. I was on fall break in Las Vegas with some of my college friends, and we were having like a slow day, and so I decided to like log on and get some work done. And I noticed that the number in my bank account was not really going up. It was kind of staying exactly where it was. And I'd never really paid attention to like the financials of my business. I kind of always just winged it. And so finally I sit down and look and calculate how much money I'm making. And it turns out at the price point I was selling at, the amount I was spending on ads, the cost to manufacture my product, I was basically just cycling money. I wasn't making anything. That was a very scary but pivotal moment, an important moment, because I really thought to myself, like, if I'm gonna make this work, I need to put a lot more attention and effort into it. And so from that point forward, I was much more focused and put a lot more effort and thought into everything I was doing. I started to think about my price, how much it was costing me to make the product, just everything. I paid a lot more attention to all this. It really started to pick up, especially as golf season came, and it was great. I was doing really well. Again, I was in college, so I didn't have many expenses, and I was doing well. I released a third product for golf grips, which was awesome. Fast forward to like October, November of 2022. I have my 3 products that I'm selling. I was working with my original manufacturer. I was really frustrated with that manufacturer. They couldn't keep up with my production. I kept going out of stock, which was really detrimental on Amazon, and people were trying to order my stuff and they couldn't because it was out of stock, and my manufacturer couldn't keep up with my demand. And so I had to make the decision to cut them off and find a new manufacturer. That's exactly what I did. I cut them off, and then I started looking for a new manufacturer. I found these people that were a much larger factory that could keep up with the amount I needed. And I sent them my formulas, and I'm like, this is my product, this is how I want it to be made, here's my labels. I sent them everything. They send me samples back, and I remember testing them. And I knew the moment I tested them that they weren't as good as what I was selling before. I knew something was off. It wasn't the same product. It didn't work as well. But I was sick of being out of stock, and I needed to have product, and I knew that they could turn around in 2 weeks and have me as much product as I needed. So this is where the biggest mistake of my career to date happened. I decided to work with them and say, yep, I want to place this huge order for all this product, even though in my head I knew it wasn't good product. I knew it wasn't as good. I was too focused on the money at the time. I was doing really well, and I wanted to keep the money coming in. So I said, yep, let's do it. I placed this huge order, $50,000 order. They manufacture it really quick, 2-week turnaround time, and I'm back in stock on Amazon. A couple weeks in, I start to get a bunch of bad reviews from customers on Amazon. They say, oh, this isn't the same product, it doesn't work nearly as well. This is garbage, it doesn't work. And so then I went into panic mode, because I knew that product wasn't as good. I knew it didn't work as well. And I still made the decision to work with them because I was selfish, I was greedy. There's a lot of things that went into it, but I made a bad decision. And so I was panicking, I didn't know what to do. The sales really started to slow down because of the bad reviews. And ultimately I made the decision to throw away all that product, $40,000 worth of product down the drain, threw it all out. Not only that, now I was completely out of stock. So my revenue instantly went to zero. I just lost $40,000, $50,000 on all that stuff. And I didn't have a new manufacturer lined up. So this was like one of the hardest moments through this whole process. So I spent the next month trying to find a manufacturer and getting samples from people and working with people and trying to find someone that I could trust that could make a good product. I did find someone I wanted to work with. It's the people I still work with to today. They sent me the product and it was even better than before. It's the best it's ever been. It was insane. I couldn't believe the results from it. And so I'm like, yes. They're like, this is great. I want to work with you guys. And they're like, okay, but we have like a long lead time. It's going to take a couple months to get this project started. I said, a couple months? Like, we have Christmas coming up. Like, yeah, that's just how it is. So I was like, okay, you know what? I learned my lesson. I'm going to do this right this time. So we set up with them. I ended up doing a full rebrand, trying to kind of be like, hey, sorry, we screwed up. We fixed this. The product's better. Like, please give us a second chance. I promise you'll be happy. We rebrand everything. And then by January of 2023, we finally were back in stock with this new, improved, and great product. And the whole time I was like, oh yeah, once this is back in stock, we'll pick up right back where we started. We'll be moving tons of product again. All will be well. And that just wasn't the case. It was very, very slow in January. It was very hard to get product to sell. It was just a rough time. It was very, very challenging. One of the hardest times in this whole journey. I was practically losing money because I was trying to spend on ads, trying to get stuff moving again. It just wasn't working. February was pretty much the same thing, just very slow. All during this time, I just moved to Chicago. My rent was double what it used to be. Food, everything is way more expensive here. So I just upped my lifestyle and wasn't making any money. So it was just really challenging. But in March, April, I really started to get connected with the entrepreneur community here in Chicago. I started getting motivated by other people. And everyone kept telling me, social media, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, like you need to be doing this very consistently and put a lot of effort into it and you'll turn things around. So I said, you know what, nothing else is working at this point, why not give it a shot? So in March, I go all in on content. I start making videos of me restoring clubs. And sure enough, I start to pick up some traction. I did a couple 100,000 views in March. In April, I started to hit millions of views, and all of a sudden my sales just started to skyrocket. April was crazy, May was insane. I was making a ton of money in May. June, I did over $100,000 in revenue, which was absolutely absurd. Couldn't believe it. I launched international in June, so my product was able to ship anywhere in the world. So I have people in all over the world using my product now. It was a roller coaster. It was crazy going from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs. And that brings me kind of where we are today. The latest development is that I just finally finished my product bundle, which is a box that comes with all my products. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to do super well, especially because it's a little higher price point, so it makes a great gift for golfers. But it's crazy just reflecting on this journey and thinking back, like how all this happened, how low some of those times were, and how I just showed up and worked hard every day. And sure enough, it all worked out in the end. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of other bad decisions I make from here on out, and things that go wrong and hard times. But if there's one thing I've learned in all of this, it's just you just got to keep trying and keep working hard, and you'll be rewarded for that. And just keep your head down, keep working, and you can pretty much work through any issue, any problem, any hard time that you're having. I feel unbelievably lucky and grateful that I've gotten to experience all of this. And again, I attribute a lot of this to luck. Don't get me wrong, I've worked hard. I don't think there's a lot of other college kids waking up at 5 a.m. to work on their business. I definitely put in the hours and the time, but I'm incredibly lucky that I identified the opportunities I did when I did and was able to capitalize on them. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I'm incredibly grateful for it and will always be. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story about my journey. It's been a wild ride, and it's crazy to reflect back on all that and see where I am now and think about the moments where I thought of all this as like, oh, this would be a nice side income of a couple $100s a month, to now where I'm running $1 million business, and it's just like, how did this happen? I love making content like this. It's fun and it's a great creative outlet for me, so I'm going to continue to do it. But I appreciate you watching, and let me know if there's any stories and whatever that you want to hear about, and I'll continue to make these videos.